Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on Get the Tea. I'm Peter Biberai, and I know we met previously, and we're here at INMED. What I want to be able to do is just to talk about what INMED is doing for our community, and for you to share how the community can help INMED. So please introduce yourself.
All right. So thank you for joining us here today, Ms. Buda. So I'm Tanisha Cox. I am the Program Development Coordinator here at INMED. So essentially what I do here is look at the needs of the community and try to help establish some of those programs. I also manage the volunteers, if you will, so reaching out to those folks that could essentially recruit or at least assist in the recruitment of volunteers for us.
Okay.
And then the second part of your question was?
Well, I'm going to ask this. How long have you been with INMED?
So I joined the team, I want to say either late September, early October. So in the midst of COVID, I came on board and I learned about INMED. I used to work with a program called Healthy Families that is in Fairfax County, and INMED runs a similar program. So initially I reached out to them to let them know that I was here in Loudoun and I wanted to offer my help with some of those parenting programs and also do some programs that are geared towards teens.
All right. And you said one of the primary focuses that you have is coordinating the volunteer services. Mm-hmm. So we'll ask a couple of questions about that in a minute, but also identifying what the needs of the community are. Mm-hmm. So for this particular INMED that's located off of Ridgetop Circle mm-hmm. in Sterling, mm-hmm. what did you identify, or what has your team identified to be the needs of the community?
That's a great question. So Paula, our community educator, is looking at, those community needs. So how can we help families assist them out of the current situations and ideally help them along their journey to self-sufficiency. So what does that look like? So we're looking at like vocational type programs. So we're looking at possibly offering like a sewing course, having someone come and talk about entrepreneurship, helping them with English classes, like things like that will really try to make sure that those skills that they learn are not just applicable in one particular area. It'll help them throughout the course of their lives, right? What I tell people that I love most about INMED is that we're generational focused. So we don't have a program that focuses on just the parents. We have programs that focus on the kids. We have programs that focus on the teens, because ideally we would help the family in a holistic way, not just focus on one generation, if you will.
Okay, and that's excellent, because that's exactly how you do is if you're treating the family as a whole, mm-hmm. then you're meeting more of those needs. So let's focus a little bit on your approach as far as our volunteering community members. Mm-hmm. How are you reaching out to the community?
So what I'm reaching out through the folks that I meet, right? So Lisa or One Sparrow, Solitaire Carol, the schools, other nonprofits. So I'm using my own connections, and then people are also talking about their experience, because we want to make sure that the volunteers come in. I call our volunteers superheroes. And really, some of them are like, oh my God. So all my orientations I start off with, if you could think of a superpower that you have, what would that look like? And I do that because we are a small team, but our reach is far only because of the help that we get from the community. So today we have, I want to say maybe 25 volunteers for this event. Right. And when I came on board, I think we had like 3. Wow. So far, I've oriented almost 100 volunteers that have served us in a multitude of programs, from our community response, our virtual programs, and even the families that we help, they come back to help us. So, they have that give back, spirit to the community as well.
Yeah, and I think that's where you can establish yourself as having built the roots, because you're exactly right. So what's flourishing then is being used to service somebody else. Mm-hmm, so that's mm-hmm. excellent. Now with INMED, and I know I had an opportunity to have a tour, within this particular facility here, you do also offer those other services. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I had an opportunity to look at your computer lab. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When I was speaking to Paula, she indicated that they're trying to teach the kids, but also the adults, mm-hmm. so that they have an opportunity to have that skill set that they could also take home and work with their kids, as well as being able to apply for a job.
Absolutely.
Do you know what the needs are for actual hard resources for your computer lab? Because you know this, Loudoun County is the IT capital, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. We have so many businesses out here that I think we make a reach for. They can provide IT equipment. Mm-hmm. They can provide maybe even the personnel to teach somebody how to best use it. If you were to identify maybe a current need that our community could fill, what would that be?
all those things. So time and, items. Because we have these desktops, we are trying to get rid of those and give them to families as they complete the English courses, right? And as they complete the computer classes, because there's one thing to teach them the skill. When you've gone to a training, everything goes out the window if you don't apply that training, right? So we want to make sure that we're giving them the things to now apply the skills that they've learned. So we could always use computers. Laptops would be great. And oftentimes too, the Chromebooks that the kids are getting from school, they can't do anything but schoolwork with that. Right. So if we want to set them up for like a STEM program or something along those lines, it might be difficult to access those outside programs with just the Chromebooks. So, and similar to the families that want to do job applications and things like that. So we could always use that. We could always use non-perishables. Every Friday, we put bags together and we distribute that, to the community.
You've got all these services that you're offering to the community. Mm-hmm. How are you getting the word out as to what is here that somebody can take advantage of?
I mean, those are great questions. And really it's through interactions like this. So because I've lived here in Loudoun, for 10 years, I think. And I'm surprised at how few people know about this amazing organization, and also aware of our reach too, right? So we are here located, our USA office is here in Sterling, and we have 4 other international offices that we're doing great work, and not too many people are aware of that. So it's really as we connect with the community and share with the folks in our network, that's really how they're learning about the work that we do here. Yeah, I think our impact was raised since COVID, because that's when we developed more community response. Prior to COVID, it was mainly like after school programs that was run here, as you can see as you tour the center, with the computer lab, and we had a library, we have a music room. So the kids will come here either by bus or their parents will drop them off, and they will get the help, like homework help and such. We had like STEM clubs and music instructors, as I mentioned. But then COVID hit, and we're like, we have to do more, for the community. So I think people learned more about INMED through our community response.
Excellent. And I think that's the strength of the program that you have, is the needs that you're meeting. People are appreciative, but also more importantly, they identify that they're not the only ones with that need. Mm-hmm. And they've got to do something to be able to give that forward. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so let's get a little bit personal.
All right.
Why was this your mission for you as far as what your interests were?
So I initially joined this kind of work, was mainly focused on parents. So my degree is in education, and I taught for a little while, but realized I didn't want to teach kids. So I started working with parents, but really to help them grow into the parents that they want to be. And that's how I was introduced to Healthy Families. I was a semi-young mom, and even though I had support around me, I tell people if I had a family support specialist, which is what we call our workers that work for Healthy Families, that I could have benefited from that. So while we mainly work with families that are at risk, anyone can benefit from those particular programs. My wheelhouse is teens, and I like to do work with teens. I like teens sometimes more than I like adults, and I like the teens that folks don't want to work with, the ones that are struggling, and you want to know the story behind why they came to you so angry. And I mainly because while I had parents that loved me, I was a difficult teen myself, and I think I am the woman that I am because of the adults that didn't give up on me. So I try to, create programs that will, one, give teens the space to have those conversations that they know they should have with safe adults, but they don't have those safe adults to have those conversations. So we try to start off on things like how can we prepare for college, and then move into those other more serious conversations, if you will. What do a healthy relationship looks like? Right. What does effective communication looks like? Because those are things that we're not teaching in school, right? But we know as they grow and they're going to interact with people, these are skills that they need to learn. What does forgiveness look like in an area where we live in a cancel culture? Heaven forbid someone does something to upset you, we cancel them out, but we all want grace extended to us. So those are the conversations that we're having, with kids that oftentimes they're not having in other spaces.
And I like the way you spoke about all those different tangents off of that conversation and those relationships. Because the other thing that in my brain, what I came to was the summary of also teaching kids how to cope. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I think and I don't have any kids, but from the parent perspective, I see the parents are trying to bubble wrap their kids. Parents want to make sure that you don't fall because I'm worried about that versus let you fall because I want to help you get up so that you have that resiliency and know I got this, right? Not that it's easy, but if we could create that coping mechanism, then we've got healthier kids who make healthier adults.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
So that's exactly right. That's a great set of tools to give to their toolkit.
100%.
So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now, from our community perspective, what is the needs of InMed that we could put out there for our community to consider? Because everybody has some ability to help, all different degrees, but we all have the ability to help. How can our community help you?
One, their hands, so coming here and lending they're sharing their time with us. We could always use help here for community response. Every single day we have families that are coming in to pick up a particular item. Sometimes we'll get like 40 bags of clothes, and while we love the donation, the staff don't necessarily have the time to sort through those things. So even if it's something like that, or someone may call with this amazing resource and none of us can get to this particular location to pick those items up. So even having someone that's reliable to go to, let's say Walmart, who donated, I want to say 300 backpacks to us, So we were trying to, rally around to see who could pick up these items for us. So their time, their talent. So, whatever, while we're not really, aside from the computer classes and the English classes, most of our programs are still virtual, but we're looking at how can we, what sort of services can we provide as we're able to safely come back together? And what do those things look like? So, you might be someone that works well with teens and you have this really great idea. I met with a woman, I think her nonprofit is called Voices of Empowerment, and she works with mainly women, but we had this conversation yesterday about how can we apply the workshops that she's using with women to young girls. And she's like, I'm going to call 1, 2, 3 all these people because I have all these connections to come in and talk to girls. I met a guy who a male and female, Chandler and Duty, they run Young Kings, and they do a mentorship for young men. So now we're trying to figure out how can we come together to do that kind of work. So time, talent, and then once again, the resources. So we give out paper products, we give out non-perishables, we give out clothes sometimes. So those things, families can, the community can always drop those things off to assist us.
And so was that also something that if somebody, let's assume they don't have at this moment in their lives, the ability to give you time or their talent, can they give you their dollars?
Absolutely. We could always use the dollars. We have like multiple times throughout the year where we do fundraisers, but we could always use the dollars because sometimes when we get grants, we have to use that money for specific things, right? But they're not thinking about, sometimes we do need backpacks, right? Sometimes we do need school supplies. Sometimes we do need clothes. So when we did the coat drive last year, we didn't necessarily get the number of coats for the families that we wanted to serve. So we went out and we purchased, so families can receive new coats. So yeah, we could always use the dollars, of course.
Okay, excellent. So what is your ask to the community specifically? Like if you were looking at, right now we are in the start of spring. Between spring and summer, what would you suggest would be something that somebody can do as an immediate assistance for InMed?
So, again, the dollars, if they have those extra funds, so that way we can set it aside and be able to use that for, for the future or at current to purchase items. And also, because we're thinking about how can we safely come back together, I've been thinking about like one-off workshops. So what are some workshops that we can host for both elementary and teens, small groups, for them to come and learn a particular skill safely and be able to use those things. So someone's going to come in and do a mindfulness painting class for us in May. Someone's going to come in and my brother's a chef in New York, so he's going to come and do a cooking class with some teens in May. So things like that, like really lend their gifts, share their gifts with us, and have fun too. So that's like the most immediate need I could think of.
So when you're doing these programs like the chef part, and you said for teens, do you check ID or can anybody sneak in?
Don't try to sneak in.
I will be all about that because I think it's like it could be like a real live age or it could be a maturity age. I would qualify for the maturity age, so I'm fine with that. If I have to create an ID, I'll create an ID. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, and this is what we want to be able to do is to ask of our community is support our nonprofits. InMed is doing great work in our community is directly impacting the people who have a need, and just as important is giving people an opportunity to contribute. And that's at the end of the day what we need to be able to do. If you can, you should. If you need it, ask, because that's what we're here for within our community. So thank you very much for your time today, and we will be able to spread the word and be able to help grow INMED, because we appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. And if you want to learn more about INMED, feel free to check us out at inmedusa.org. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.